Good afternoon. This is Sia with Black Petal Gardening, and today we are going to do a garden update. It is Sunday the 28th, I believe. So we are at the end of May, and there's been a lot of changes in the garden. You've probably seen a few already via the different videos that I've put out, but I wanted to do a specific garden update to kind of show everything that has changed over the last few, days and weeks. Let's check it out and see what there is to see. Good evening. This is Sia with Black Petal Gardening, and it is about 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday. So, though my introduction was actually from the 29th, or no, the 28th, I have had technical difficulties in being able to actually do my garden tour. So now it is much cooler, and hopefully I will be able to get through the entire video and do so relatively quickly. So with that little heads up out of the way, let's get started with our berry area. And here we have Fall Gold. That is our yellow or golden raspberry. If you saw a previous video when we first got it, it had just about one leaf on it and it was a stick. Now we can see it's got some flowers and the beginnings of some fruit. So that's exciting. And according to the little tag over there, it's supposed to be ready for harvest in July. So, a couple more months, and we will hopefully be seeing some, at least a taste of what those will be like. Moving over here, we've got our raspberry shortcake. Now, clearly, something is going on here. I'm not really sure what the problem is, though. I mean, these leaves are just crispy as all get out. And down below, if you check that out, it's very brown. I'm gonna have to look online to see what might be causing them to curl and be so dry. It shouldn't be that there's not enough water, because digging down here, it's not very deeply, and there's plenty of, it's moist. I'll have to see if maybe using one of those doing a liquid foliar coverage using the fish and guano fertilizer would be something that would be helpful or not. Maybe it needs more nitrogen. I'm not really sure. I need to figure that out. Here's our honeyberries. Now this is the one that actually has, or at least had, some fruit on it. I did notice over here that something that looks like it might actually be a blueberry. So we do have a honeyberry here. Let's try and get that in focus. And a few others. So we'll have a little something to harvest. See how we like them. Our lavender's looking lovely. And Scott has plans to make a lavender fig jam. He found a recipe somewhere, and since his tree is just laden with figs, that'll be a good use for them. Speaking of Scott, here is his lingonberry bush, which does have berries on them. I don't know if those tend to get a little bit bigger than that or not. That'll be something we'll have to check into. But he was talking about some point being able to make jam. With how small those are, we're probably going to need much more to harvest. This is our peach sorbet blueberry. This is planted here this year, so not bad for a first year plant. This one's a little bit older. It's a couple years, maybe even 3. Mm, looks like it has a lot of little things for blueberries to be forming, but they're kind of small. They kind of remind me of like a wild blueberry with their size. Though, get over here and a little bit bigger. So I don't know, maybe as it ages, maybe those berries will get a little bit larger. This guy, this is the one that was just kind of a stick, and I really wasn't sure if it was going to make it. It has um, obviously leafed out, which is great, but it never developed any flowers, so obviously no fruit. Then this is one of our oldest blueberries. It's got a decent number on there, but definitely not the most prolific of the plants that we have. The fruits are very good though. They tend to be a really deep purple color, rather than that kind of bluish purpley color that a lot of blueberries tend to be. So very sweet as well. And then here's our Big Daddy, which has a ton of fruit. And this is our big producer. Year in and year out, it has been a workhorse. So very excited to see. We've got some similar um, expectations this year, provided, of course, the birds don't get into them. And then last but not least, this is our pink lemonade, which is new this year. Not quite as prolific as I would like, but again, this is the first year we've had it. And as long as there's a few that get to the point where we can harvest them and taste them, because I have never had a pink blueberry before, that'll be great. Okay. Gonna move on over to our garlic, which is getting to the point where we are going to want to have to move the container to a place where it won't get watered on any longer. When I was doing my research, it said at the time that you have half of the leaves browned and falling down, and half of them still green and upright. That's about the time you want to stop watering, and then continue to keep it out and dry for about a week to maybe 2 weeks, and then check the bulb to see if it's started to bulb up. If it hasn't, then go ahead and cover it back up and leave it for another week. But you have to be careful because you don't want to leave it in the ground after all of the leaves have died back, because you'll potentially lose that silver skin that covers the bulb and protects it. So the consensus that I saw was you don't want to have complete dieback on garlic, in the same way that you do want to have complete dieback for onions. So we'll see. I'm trying to think in previous years what I kind of followed, and honestly I can't remember. So we'll be keeping an eye on there. Here's some more of our garlic, and you can see that the squirrels have been in here again. Oh, they're going to be a menace this year. But we have a similar situation here. More than half of these seem to have died back, so I'm going to be starting to look to see if we need to start harvesting. Okay, and then these are getting ready for flowers to be planted in them. Same thing with some of this stuff over here. This is our kind of throwaway lettuce bed. Oh, it's getting a little bit eaten by some stuff, which is fine. I, of course, would prefer to be the one eating it, but this really was one that we just kind of had extra seeds, and so we decided to just toss them into a container and let them grow. Okay, so here we have a whole bunch of Walla Walla onions. I needed to purchase some to fill some blank spaces in the Greenstock, and unfortunately, the only containers that they had were 6 cell container packs, and in each cell there were 6 to 9 onions. So I didn't need, anywhere from 36 to, whatever onions at the time. So I had to find a place to put them, and this is what I decided to do with them. I have also put them in little areas that had some room in the larger raised beds too. Okay, over here's how our herbs are looking. Over here on the left is our oregano, which you can see is starting to get to flower out. We've got our thyme, some of that is flowering as well. We've got our sage, garden sage over here. Now those 3 overwintered. I planted them last spring, and so they've been a powerhouse. Marjoram is down here. This is the first year that I've grown it. I did grow that from seed. I don't know. It's it's still alive, and it looks like it might be putting on a few new leaves, so I guess that's a good sign. But I think the one that I had planted out in the Greenstock did not survive. Here is the last of our garlic, well, almost the last of our garlic. And again, it looks like we're getting pretty close to when it is going to need to be harvested. All right. So this is our squash bed, and we've got our summer squash. This is hybrid gentry, which I'm going to be attempting to force to go over this trellis. We've got the Black Beauty zucchini, which is also, I want to trellis up. I want these to be vertical rather than horizontally spread, mostly because we've got this mountain sweet yellow watermelon and a sugar baby watermelon over there, and those will need some space. Over here is supposed to be Aunt Molly's ground cherries. I do not know if that is a ground cherry start right there. It might be a weed. If it is, great. We'll, let it come on. If it's not, I'm not going to reseed. Okay, and then over here we've got Tomatilla de Milpa. This we purchased at Portland Nursery. We did go there because we had some disappointing results with our Greenstock this year in regards to direct sown seeds. So that is what it is. And we picked this one up. Scott thought, hey, let's grab one of these. And I know you can do salsa verde with them, but I don't know what else we might do with it. But we'll figure something out. Here we've got a couple plants of winter squash. It is black, they are black bolotas. 2 of those, because I was impatient and waiting for the first one to come up. Something has been digging in here. So, squirrels, most likely. I am gonna just forever blame squirrels. Let's look over here. So, this is our dwarf snakebite tomato, and all along the edge here is where I'm putting the dwarf tomatoes. I have 4 more that are in the process of hardening off, and then I will get them into a pot. I need to buy about 10 more of those tomato cages for support, and as they get bigger, This one's probably at a place where I can snip off kind of those bottom leaf sets, and then I'll put some straw down to help with the moisture. Over here we have what sort of looks like an empty container, but you can see right there on the side, this is our potato. And I just recently, I want to say, I'm pretty sure it was yesterday, I covered it with the last 2 to 3 inches of soil that I was going to do for a cover, and for layers. So, we planted it out, let it grow up, covered it, let it grow, cover, let it grow, cover. So that's the last layer that we're going to do. Once it breaks the surface there, we're going to just let it go, and hopefully this will give enough room for a decent potato crop. And of course, being in a container, hopefully be much easier to harvest. These are purple potatoes, so I am particularly excited for those to actually become something, because who doesn't love purple mashed potatoes? Here we have this. Now, this one is not a dwarf tomato. I got a bug in my ear to do a third sowing of the black strawberry tomato. So there we go. Here we've got Laura's Bounty. This is a dwarf tomato as well. This is the Wilpena, Wilpena, dwarf tomato. Got our Adelaide's Festival dwarf tomato here. Dwarf Beauty King. Now, I've never grown tomatoes in grow bags, so these two plus 3 of the ones that are still in the hardening off stage, they will all be in grow bags. I do understand that grow bags can lose moisture a lot more quickly than other types of containers, so I'm gonna have to keep my eye on that piece of things. I'm hoping, the adding the straw will help at least a little bit, but with the sides being more permeable than the plastic containers, I might have to watch that a little bit more closely than some of the others. Okay. And over here we've got another dwarf snakebite. Here we've got the dwarf Stony Brook Heart, and then a dwarf Russian swirl tomato. So I wanted to make sure that I had at least one example of each of the seeds varieties that I purchased. It took me 3 separate times trying to start the goldfinch, the dwarf goldfinch. It finally decided to germinate. So now I do have one of each, and then I did double up on, I think, 3 or 4 of the varieties. Not for any specific reason, I just liked them, the sounds of them, I guess. So, there you go. And we're gonna head over here, and this is our Bear's Lime. It is one of the 2 citrus trees that we had last year that overwintered on our porch. Well, I should say of 3. 2 survived, 1 did not. It didn't survive without some damage. I have already clipped some other branches, but I am very encouraged to see some nice green growth here. I don't know if we'll get to the point where it'll put on flowers and, actual fruit. I would love to see that. I'm not going to hold my breath. Here is a Myers lemon. We actually purchased this year. The Myers lemon that we had last year was the one that failed. It just was not strong enough, mature enough to make it through the winter. It did flower a little bit, but I think the cold temperatures just were too much for it. This one definitely has a much more developed trunk, so we'll see. We've got this navel orange. This was the third one that we had and overwintered. You can tell it's not in the best shape, especially with the color of the leaves. But I am seeing some new growth, so that's certainly good to see. And then last but not least, we've got this mandarin orange, which was also purchased this year. Okay, and now we have come to what I call our first raised bed. This is the one that we put together first, that we filled first with soil, and that we planted out first. We've got some great things, and we've got some not so great things going on in here. So here we've got our peas. I believe these are Sugar Ann. They haven't set any pea pods just yet, but that should be soon. And over here, we've got Sugar Magnolia, which, as you can see, has started to put out seed pods, and we've actually harvested a few over the last couple of days. So that's definitely awesome. It's interesting. I don't know why this is so much darker than these. I just noticed that. How interesting. All right, so we've got our teddy bear sunflower, a couple of random lettuce, and then we've got our beets. And as you can see, there is definitely some damage going on here. And I'm assuming that this is based off of some kind of bug rather than it being like a nutrient deficiency or something to do with watering. But I am not an expert. Haven't eaten beets. This is the first year we've ever tried to grow them. So if you are a beet expert and can let me know what the heck is going on with these and what I need to do to fix it, I would very much appreciate that. Yeah, because goodness, look at some of these. They are terrible, absolutely terrible shape. And I don't see any plant that is not affected except for maybe this one, which the rate things are going, I'm sure it'll probably be affected too. All right, well, we'll move on over here. This is one of our spoon tomatoes. And if you saw previous videos about our seeds starting with the tomatoes, you probably noticed that the spoon tomatoes were in terrible condition. I really didn't think that they were going to make it, but I planted them out anyway, and this one's really is coming along. The other two I put in the Greenstalk, and they have taken off quite nicely, so that's great. I did do a late sowing of some cabbage, a different variety than the ones in our cool weather crop bin or bed. But the way I'm looking at that is if they germinate, great. If they don't, not really a big deal. So we'll see. And over there, we do have a sunspot sunflower. And so that and the teddy bear, those are both dwarf sunflowers. Over here, we have our nice little line of Nantes carrots. Those are the carrots that planted using the seed tape. So those are coming along nicely. And then we've got these beautiful onions, which, as a reminder, we did start from sets. So the little bulbs, just purchased at, I want to say, Home Depot or Fred Meyer, came in a box. They are looking really, really good. Not at the point for harvest yet, but that'll be fun once that comes around. It is still quite the battle of weeds, over here, but you just gotta stay on top of it as you have time. Now I will say we do have 2 garlic in here, which is going to be interesting considering the guidance for what you're supposed to do when you're getting ready to harvest them, and the fact that they're in a bed with other things that are not going to be ready for harvesting. So I'm going to have to play that by ear for sure. I did plant a Walla Walla onion in here. Let's see, a little bit of a maze trying to get to the weeds in here. Okay, anyway. Alrighty, now we are here at the tomato and pepper bed. So again, more Walla Walla onions along the edge over here. Okay, so over here we used to have a nasturtium. It died. It tried. It was looking really good when after it was seed started, and it seemed to be doing a-okay after being hardened off, and then it tried really hard to put out some flowers, and then poof, it was dead. So I planted some of this Roseoidea lissum, which I did have a couple of seedlings sprout, and now they've disappeared. So I have decided that this corner is cursed, and I'm not going to plant anything else. Over here we have our Sugar Rush peach peppers. These were started from seed. We've got 3 Carmen Italian peppers. These were purchased from the store. We've got 2 shishito peppers, also purchased from the store, as was this mammoth jalapeno. We've got these 2 datil, 2 sets of datil peppers here. Both of those were started from seed. And we have our cilantro, which is definitely starting to flower, which I guess means it's bolted. So not sure what we're going to do about that. I guess cut it and dry it. We'll see. Scott wanted this for his salsa. If we have to take it out because it's gotten to the bolting stage, because I definitely don't want it to seed out and seed in the bin. I do not want to be doing cilantro volunteers every year. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. All right. Got another teddy bear sunflower. We have a calendula over here. A Walla Walla onion. There should be 2 of them, but one of them disappeared. Here is a San Marzano tomato. We also have a Sun Gold tomato, which has put out some lovely flowers. And over here is a Juliet tomato, which is a type of Roma. And those are 3 of the 5 tomatoes that we have purchased. All of the rest we started from seed. Okay, I'm going to put my weeds in there. Okay, we've got a really beautiful nasturtium. Flowers are super bold and bright, so pretty. Okay, then over here we've got our black strawberry tomato. 2 of those. We have Annan's Noir tomato, 2 of those. We've got 3 of the Black Beauty tomatoes, and then 2 of the Brad's Atomic Grape. Okay. Now this brings me to my area of concern. I have a feeling that I've planted these far too close together, but I also did not want to sacrifice any of them. I already left a number of them to give to my family. So it wasn't a case of not wanting to let other people enjoy the fruits of my labor, but I had a certain number of each one that I was wanting to grow myself, and potentially that desire may have been um, a poor choice because of how close these need to be or are currently. Now, if I decide to do the same number of tomatoes or more with the intent of putting them in the raised beds, I think I'm going to have to reorganize and potentially have one raised bed that's just tomatoes. So, the we'll have to find a different place to plant our peppers at that point. Not sure where. We do have that area back there that eventually is going to be cleared out with room to put some additional planting beds in. So, maybe we'll switch some stuff around and that'll open up an area. But I will say if the fact that I have packed these kind of close together does not seem to have a significant impact on them, disease, they don't get disease. They don't, get all withery because they're not getting enough nutrients. We don't have any other issues that are affecting how much, quantity that they put out. Then, I might reassess the need to have a whole bed that's just tomatoes, but it is something that is in the back of my mind at this time, at least. Okay, and we're going to go to the last bed, which is what I'm calling kind of my cool weather crop bed. And you can see here we've got 2 cucumbers. These are the dragon's egg cucumbers. My plan is to have them train up the trellis, as well as the Mexican sour gherkin, which has been very slow to grow so far, but that's the plan for there. Here we've got our butter crunch lettuce. Now, this was one that I had planned doing a double sowing, so wait 2 to 4 weeks and then do a new sewing set. I did that. So far the only thing that's come up is this one, and even that one I'm not sure how. Yeah, so it wasn't actually very strongly in there. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to re-sow those. Hopefully it's not too warm for things to germinate and do okay. We'll see. Additionally, these are the purple dragon carrots. Those are also ones that I wanted to do a second sowing of. So I did that at the same time that I sowed these, and I filled the areas where there were space, as well as did a whole line down here. Now, so far nothing's come up. I don't know if I need to be concerned about that, because if I'm remembering, these did seem to take a little while to show up. So potentially we'll see them coming. I'm hoping that the straw isn't creating, too much of a barrier for them either. Well, we'll just have to see what happens. Now, an unplanned second sowing are for these yellow onions. I really didn't have any plans on sowing additional ones, but I was futzing around on the porch and the box that they came in fell on the ground, and I saw that some of them actually had some sprouts on them. So I said, why not? Let's go plant some more out. If they come up, they come up. If they don't, no harm, no foul. And as we can see, they're doing quite nicely. And then we get into here, we've got our 2 Brussels sprouts. Those are the purple Radarling. And then we've got 4 cabbages. And unfortunately, we do have some pest pressure on here. We can see some stuff has been chewing on my poor innocent little cabbages. And I should probably talk about this little contraption. So, as I was saying previously, I consider this kind of my cool weather crop raised bed. When I think of cabbage and Brussels sprouts, the cool weather crops. So I started to panic when we had such a warm start to the spring and we had a heat wave. And so my first thought was, oh crud, how are my vegetables that are typically supposed to like a little bit cooler weather going to handle that? I need to get them some shade. And so I looked up line and got the shade cloth from Amazon. It's a 30% shade cloth, which from what I understand means it blocks 30% of the sun. And in the morning when the sun comes in, this does get a full chunk of sun. But as the day progresses and it gets into the afternoon, we end up with a nice little dappled sunlight situation over here. So it's got some shade. Some things on the edge do continue to get sun. Same thing over here, peeking out, get sun, just the entirety of the day. But for the most part, there is at least some shade time for these plants. Here's my question. Have I jumped the gun? Am I doing these harm because I am not providing them with constant summer, late spring, early summer sun? And I really shouldn't worry about doing shade until we get into July and August, when the heat typically is more unbearable or higher than potentially it would like. Is there any kind of damage I might be doing to stunt these plants by putting a shade cloth up this early? If you are in the know, please share your experience, share your knowledge, because I want to do what's best for the plants, and I have absolutely no problems rolling this sucker up and making sure that it's getting, all day sun until later in the summer. Similarly, as the cucumbers fill that trellis, we should end up with additional shade, and that might change how I need to do my contraption as well, just to make sure it does get the amount of sun that it does need to have. Okay. And last but not least, we have this big, beautiful nasturtium. Look at this, like lily pad like leaves here. And it's put on some very pretty yellow flowers. So, oh, lovely. All right. So now the last thing that we have is our Greenstalks to go over. And as I said, a little bit of disappointment with these. Not in the product itself, but just my expectations on how much germination I was thinking I would get on things that I had put in with seeds. I put in a lot of beans and lettuces, not in this particular one, but between the three, lots of beans, lots of lettuces, a few other different types of things. And quite frankly, most of the ones that I attempted to start from seed, they did not come up. They didn't generate or germinate. A few of them I did multiple sowing attempts and nothing doing. So what I decided to do is go and just purchase some starts. And I have no problems with purchasing starts. I have no problems enjoying the fruits of somebody else's labor. There's no shame in using starts versus using seed. There's always that little bit of excitement of being able to say, hey, I started this from seed. But at the same time, food is food, and I don't have a problem using starts at all. So just going through here, did finally get some germination on the California Wonder Pepper. Here I did, I think, 3 of those, and there's the second bin that does actually finally have something germinating. The third one, nothing ever came up, so I did replace that. I think I did a new sowing of these garden beans, and I'm waiting to see if they're going to germinate or not. because I did have good germination on my beans in the beige green stalk, but I will be honest, there were a number of them that I had to do a second sowing of. So not really sure why, but instead of doing so, I did pick up a fair number of herbs, like for example, this purple basil, as well as this Thai basil. I got a dwarf tomato that I've put in here, some parsley, got some hot and spicy oregano. Trying to think, most of the stuff on the top were starts that I purchased with the intent of putting them in the green stock. The second round of starts that I purchased, like for example, this one I just got yesterday, and this is Lotus Red. I wanted to make sure I included additional flowers. I did get some beans here to add. It's a French fillet. Some more Blue Lake beans down there. The Walla Walla onions, those were purchased to help fill some of the empty spaces up. Some of my cosmos did germinate. Same thing with at least one of the cut and come again zinnia seeds. We've got some poblano down here. Here's one of those spoon tomatoes that was looking so terrible, but it's really, grown. I think I'm gonna have to put some kind of tie across here, some twine to give it some additional support though. Got a calendula. This we started from seed. This overwintered from last year, and it's done wonderfully. It keeps putting out blooms. Let's see, what's this? Another French fillet. Got this Lamium Red Nancy that I put in. We've got some dill that's coming up. Those were started from seed. Now on the top we've got this mammoth jalapeno. We've got a sweet banana pepper. Here's the other spoon tomato. So you can see it's really bounced back quite well. And those tomatoes are supposed to be like super, super tiny, so super cute. We'll see once they come up. We've got a shishito, a yellow bell. We've got some more cilantro. This we did start from seed. So the thing may be, if I'm gonna put it in the green stock, maybe I'm gonna have to start it from seed inside. I mean, I don't like that lack of flexibility, but if that's what's going to ensure that I have a better harvest, then it just makes sense to go that route. Okay, so moving on to our green stock. The lettuce on the top row did fantastic. And we've got two little nasturtiums that we started from seed coming up as well. The rest of the different lettuces, because I did different types of lettuce, no, not so great. But that's okay because we have replaced them. We've got this patio tomato here. We've got some Walla Walla onions. We've got a Tabasco hot pepper, a Cajun Bell spicy pepper. Oh, I need to water this. We've got a golden summer pepper. Ooh, I have got a splinter. Another Walla Walla onion. And we've got some sweet basil and a sweet pepper mini bell. Now in both of these, we had the basil starts that I had started from seed. They looked great. I hardened them off for a couple of weeks. They seemed to be fine and healthy. I put them in the green stock, and like 2 days they were dead. So maybe something in the soil that it didn't like. Maybe it couldn't get past the transplant shock. I'm not sure, but that was very disappointing. We've got an Anaheim chili, some more Walla Walla onions. This is a lantana. Look at how pretty that is. Oh my goodness. Ugh, so bright. Love it. We've got a purple bell pepper here, which actually ended up being the last one at the Portland nursery when for the day that we went and picked up plants, that is. And then moving down, we've got some Swiss chard. I have never grown Swiss chard. I've never eaten Swiss chard. I've never used Swiss chard. But just like our beets, they're not looking great. So, and feeling this, it feels like it's like a pocket, like something might be burrowing in the leaf. So I don't know. Again, if you have any expertise about Swiss chard or the damage that I'm showing you on those leaves and what's causing it and how I can fix it, please share that. Here's this beautiful night sky petunia. Just purchased that yesterday. Some yerba buena. This, I honestly think Scott bought this because it smelled good. He did make an off comment that he might make some tea. I will believe that when I see it. But you know, I smelled it too, and it smelled lovely, so I'm all good with including it. We have some sweet heat peppers, some dwarf marjoram. As I mentioned before, I did start 2 marjorams from seed, and only one is still alive, and that's the one that's in with the other herbs over in the back of the garden. We've got some French breakfast radish. Only one of them came up. And then as we get down to the very bottom, I bought a Kentucky Wonder, which is a pole bean, so I'm probably going to have to figure out some kind of support for it. I bought some more dill. We've got some strawberry spinach. Now, if you watched my first seed haul, that's the spinach that's supposed to have berries. It's been very, very slow to get going, so I don't know. I don't know what we'll see. We do have some cilantro. And only 2 pockets that had the red cord chanterelle carrots have any carrot growth, and only 2 carrots, one in each. So that's been a little bit disappointing. All right. Okay, so now we're getting to the last little bit here, and this has been a heck of an update. Oh, sorry, ants. But here we are at our strawberry and bean Greenstalk, and you can see some lovely strawberries that are definitely getting to the ripening and harvesting stage up top. The beans are doing pretty well. I'm hoping that the fact that I have had to, and what the heck, put this cover on them does not create any problems for the beans. But quite frankly, after we lost our very first strawberry that wasn't even quite ripe, like half of it had ripened and pinkened up, and something ate half of it. I wasn't about to lose any others to the little critters that are out here. So I do think we've had some things trying to get in, to these, and hopefully this is a sign that they found that they were going to be unsuccessful and will now give up on this. But hard to say. I really hope having this here kind of pressing down on it isn't going to create any problems. I did check to see because I wasn't 100% sure whether bean flowers need to be pollinated, and everything said no, they don't. You'll still get your beans, so that'll be good. If we get to a point where things kind of settle down as far as the strawberry production, then I'll probably take this off and deal with any strawberry loss at that point. But the fact that we have some very gorgeous, big strawberries just waiting to be harvested, I don't want to tempt the fates. So this is looking wonderful, and I'm very, very pleased with how things are going in this particular Greenstalk. I wish I had the same amount of initial success with our other Greenstalks, but gardening can sometimes be a gamble, and you just never know how they're gonna go. Alrighty. It is about 8:15 or so, so I need to get to the gym. So I am going to close here and say have a lovely evening wherever, whenever you are. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.